10 clear signs from your childhood that showed you were chosen. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever paused to wonder if your life, your very existence, is part of a grander plan? Have you ever felt that some invisible hand has gently guided you, even from your earliest days, preparing you for something more? There is a strange and beautiful mystery woven into the fabric of life. For some, it whispers faintly, almost imperceptibly, as they go about their days. But for others, perhaps for you, it blazed like a secret fire, even in the innocence of childhood. Small moments, fleeting feelings, and strange coincidences that, in hindsight, feel less like chance and more like destiny. You see, being chosen is not about a loud proclamation or a lightning strike revelation. No, it is often quieter than that. It hides in the most unassuming corners of your youth, waiting for the moment when you will look back and recognize it for what it was. What if I told you that certain signs, clear, undeniable signs, have been present in your life from the very beginning? What if, in the laughter of childhood games, the sting of small injustices, and the wonder of star-filled nights, there were clues left just for you? Clues that you were set apart, marked for a purpose greater than you ever imagined. Tonight we will explore 10 of these signs, and as you listen, I invite you to search your own memories. Could it be that you've always known deep down that you were destined for something extraordinary? Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you may find yourself looking at your past and your future in a completely new light. Let us begin. 1. A sense of otherness. Do you remember a time, perhaps even as a child, when you felt as though you were standing slightly apart from the rest of the world? Not in a lonely way necessarily, but in a quiet, undeniable sense that you were somehow different. While others seemed content to follow the crowd or fit neatly into their surroundings, you may have felt like an observer, standing at the edge of the room, taking it all in with a gaze that saw things others overlooked. This sense of otherness wasn't something you sought, it was simply there. It showed up in the way you saw the world, the questions you asked, and the feelings that stirred deep within you. Perhaps you felt this when your peers laughed at things you didn't find amusing, or when you noticed beauty in places others dismissed as ordinary. You weren't meant to blend in because you were created to stand out, and while that feeling of being set apart may have been confusing at first, it was a sign of quiet calling that you were chosen to walk a different path. 2. An unexplainable longing. Even as a child, there was something in you that reached for more, something beyond what the world could offer. It wasn't a desire for material things or fleeting pleasures. No, it was a longing that ran much deeper. Do you remember sitting beneath the open sky, staring up at the stars, and feeling an ache in your chest for something you couldn't quite name? Perhaps you felt it when reading a story that transported you to another world, leaving you with a bittersweet sense of yearning when the tale came to an end. Or maybe it came to you in moments of stillness, when the noise of life faded and you were left alone with your thoughts. It was as though your soul remembered a place it had never been but desperately wanted to return to. This longing was no accident. It was a whisper, a sign planted deep within you to remind you that you were made for something more. It wasn't meant to frustrate you, but to guide you, to keep your heart restless until you found the purpose for which you were chosen. 3. The pull of the unseen. As a child, you might have been captivated by things that others brushed aside. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the way sunlight danced on water, or the eerie stillness of a foggy morning. These moments seemed to speak to you in a language beyond words. While others saw only the physical world, you sensed that there was something more beneath the surface, an unseen reality waiting to be discovered. This pull of the unseen often sparked your imagination. You wondered what lay beyond the stars or behind the veil of everyday life. Perhaps you felt a strange connection to stories of magic, adventure, or the divine, not because they were mere tales, but because they resonated with something inside you that said, "This is closer to the truth than you realize." This sensitivity to the unseen was not a coincidence. It was a gift, a sign that your heart was tuned to a deeper frequency, one that allowed you to sense the eternal even in the fleeting moments of childhood. It was preparing you, shaping you, and setting you apart for a life that would be anything but ordinary. Each of these signs, this sense of otherness, this unexplainable longing, and this pull of the unseen, was a thread in the tapestry of your youth. Together, they wove a story that hinted at a truth many spend a lifetime searching for, that you were chosen, even from the very beginning. 4. An inborn sense of justice. Even as a child, you had an innate understanding that the world was not as it should be. When someone took what wasn't theirs, or when a friend was treated unfairly, it stirred something in you, a fierce, unrelenting need to see the wrong made right. While other children might shrug off such injustices as part of life, you couldn't. Whether it was a classmate being bullied or a pet neglected, your heart rebelled against the unfairness, often prompting you to speak out, even when it was risky. This wasn't learned behavior, it was instinctive. It was as though you were born with a compass that always pointed toward fairness and truth. This sense of justice wasn't merely about small, childhood squabbles. It was a sign that you were chosen to care deeply, to stand for what is right, and to be a voice for the voiceless in a world that often looks the other way. 5. The gift of imagination. In your childhood, the ordinary was never truly ordinary. A stick became a sword, a blanket became a cape, and the backyard transformed into a battlefield or enchanted forest. Your imagination knew no bounds, and it often carried you far beyond the constraints of your everyday surroundings. While others may have seen your vivid imagination as mere play, it was so much more. It allowed you to see possibilities where others saw limitations, and to create worlds where others saw none. It was your early training, a preparation for a life where creativity would be your compass and innovation your tool. This gift of imagination was not a coincidence. It was a sign, a seed of the extraordinary within you. It whispered that you were chosen to bring new ideas, solutions, and perspectives into a world that often struggles to see beyond what is already known. 6. A strange courage. Fear touches everyone, especially children. Yet there were moments in your youth when you acted with a bravery that surprised even yourself. It wasn't that you were fearless, far from it, but in those moments when fear whispered, "Stay silent" or "Step back," something stronger rose within you and pushed you forward. Perhaps it was standing up for a friend when others wouldn't, or venturing into the unknown despite the knot of anxiety in your chest. This courage wasn't loud or boastful, it was quiet, but steadfast, like a flame that refused to be extinguished. This strange courage wasn't random. It was a glimpse of the resilience and strength that would define your life. It was a sign that you were chosen to face challenges and overcome them, not for yourself alone, but for the good of others. 7. Encounters with the extraordinary. Do you remember moments in your childhood that seemed to defy explanation? Perhaps it was a dream so vivid it felt more real than waking life, or an encounter with nature that filled you with an unshakable awe. Maybe it was a peculiar coincidence, a moment when things aligned so perfectly that it felt like more than chance. These experiences weren't merely oddities. They were glimpses of the extraordinary, brief windows into a greater reality that surrounded you. While others might have dismissed these moments as fleeting or insignificant, they stayed with you, shaping your sense of wonder and your belief that there was more to life than meets the eye. These encounters weren't accidental. They were signs, nudges from something greater than yourself, reminding you that you were chosen to seek and to believe in the unseen, even when the world told you otherwise. 8. A reluctance to conform. While many children eagerly mimic their peers, striving to fit in and avoid standing out, you often felt an instinctive resistance to the pull of conformity. It wasn't that you sought rebellion for its own sake, rather you had an internal sense that following the crowd wasn't always the right path. Perhaps you declined to join in when others laughed at someone's expense or felt uneasy about rules that seemed unfair. Even when this reluctance made you stand out or even cost you friendships, you couldn't force yourself to go against what felt true to you. This refusal to conform wasn't stubbornness, it was a sign. It was a marker of your independence and a hint that you were chosen to lead, not follow. You were not meant to lose yourself in the tide of sameness, but to walk a path uniquely your own. 9. A love for questions. Children are known for their curiosity, but yours went deeper. While others asked what or how, you found yourself drawn to the why. Why is the sky blue? Why do people hurt each other? Why does life sometimes feel so unfair? These weren't just fleeting questions, they were the beginnings of a deeper quest for understanding. You were rarely satisfied with simple answers. The surface didn't interest you, you wanted to dig deeper, to understand the hidden workings of the world. This hunger for truth and meaning often set you apart, leaving some adults exasperated by your endless questions, but also hinting at a mind and heart made for greater things. This love for questions wasn't mere curiosity. It was a sign that you were chosen to seek, to discover, and to bring light to the darker corners of the world. Your questions weren't just for you, they were for those who would one day depend on your discoveries and insights. With these signs, your sense of justice, your vivid imagination, your quiet courage, your encounters with the extraordinary, your resistance to conformity, and your love for questions, your childhood was already laying the groundwork for the extraordinary life ahead of you. Each of these traits pointed to a purpose larger than yourself, a reminder that you were chosen not by chance but by design. 10. A sense of calling. Even as a child, you may have felt it, that quiet but persistent feeling deep in your soul that you were meant for something greater. It wasn't always clear, nor was it easy to explain, but it was there, a subtle nudge, a whisper that seemed to say you have a purpose. This sense of calling didn't always manifest in grand gestures or bold ambitions. Sometimes it came in the form of a quiet certainty, a knowing that there was something only you could do, even if you couldn't yet name it. Other times it showed up as restlessness, a dissatisfaction with the ordinary, as though your soul was yearning for something beyond what you could see or touch. Do you remember those moments when you were drawn to certain activities or ideas with a passion you couldn't quite explain? Maybe it was a fascination with helping others, a love for creating, or a desire to explore the unknown. Whatever it was, it felt different from mere hobbies or passing interests. It felt important, as if it were tied to your very identity. And then there were the struggles, the moments of doubt and fear. Yet even in those times, that sense of calling didn't abandon you. In fact, it often grew louder, reminding you that every challenge you faced was shaping you, preparing you for something meaningful. This feeling of being called is no accident. It is not a coincidence or a fleeting childhood fantasy. It is one of the clearest signs that you are chosen. It's as though the universe or something far greater is leaning in close, asking, will you answer the call? As you grew older, you may have tried to ignore it, to fit into the mold others expected of you. But no matter how far you strayed, that sense of calling remained. It is patient but insistent, like a steady drumbeat in the background of your life, reminding you that you were never meant to live an ordinary existence. This sense of calling isn't just a gift, it is a responsibility. To be chosen is not to live a life of ease, but to live a life of meaning. It is to step forward even when the path is uncertain, and to trust that the same hand that guided you in childhood will continue to guide you now. This is your sign, your reminder that the calling you felt as a child was not a mistake. It was the spark of something eternal, waiting for you to say yes. You were chosen for a reason, and the world is waiting for you to live out that purpose. These signs woven into your childhood are not the result of chance. They are threads of purpose, markers left by the author of all things, pointing toward a story that is uniquely, profoundly yours. Each sign whispered to you, even in the innocence of youth, that your life was meant to be different, not easy, but meaningful. To be chosen is to be called, and to be called is to embark on a journey only you can fulfill. If these signs echo within you, if they awaken old memories or stir something deep within your heart, then take heart. These moments from your past are not simply fragments of a bygone time. They are seeds planted long ago, waiting to bloom into the destiny that lies ahead of you. Remember, those who are chosen are never chosen by accident. There is intention, design, and purpose behind every sign you've carried with you. Your sense of justice was no coincidence. It was the spark that set you apart as someone who would stand for what is right, even when others wouldn't. Your vivid imagination wasn't just childlike play, it was a preparation, equipping you to see beyond limitations and into possibilities others could never dream of. Your quiet courage wasn't merely an instinct, it was the resilience of someone destined to face challenges and overcome them with grace. Your encounters with the extraordinary were never random. They were glimpses into the mystery of life, gentle reminders that the world is far bigger and more wondrous than it seems. Your resistance to conformity wasn't a rebellious streak. It was your soul's way of reminding you that you weren't created to follow the crowd, but to walk your own path. And your relentless love for questions, that was the mark of a seeker, someone who would chase truth, wisdom, and meaning, no matter how elusive they seemed. Each of these signs pointed to a purpose larger than yourself. They were clues scattered throughout your childhood, whispering that you were chosen not by chance, but by design. So, what now? What do you do with this knowledge? To recognize that you are chosen is only the beginning. To answer the call is the next step. The signs from your childhood were never meant to end in the past. They were given to guide you, to prepare you, and to strengthen you for the life you are called to lead now. A life of meaning, of courage, and of purpose. And let me remind you of this. Being chosen doesn't mean you have to be perfect or fearless. It doesn't mean the path will always be clear or easy. What it does mean is that your life matters. It means that your story, with all its struggles and triumphs, is part of a greater narrative, and the world is waiting for your contribution. As we close, I invite you to look back on your life, not with regret for missed opportunities or doubt about your worth, but with gratitude for the signs that have brought you here. They are your proof that you were set apart for a reason. You were chosen, and you always have been. The question is, will you step into the extraordinary life that was meant for you?